The Mossdale Caverns are a massive cave system in Yorkshire Dales, England. They are perhaps the most famous cave system in Britain and are part of the Yorkshire Dales National Park. The caverns are part of the extensive limestone karst landscape characteristics of the region, known for their narrow passages, deep chambers, and significant hydrological features. Mossdale Caverns has a reputation as one of the most challenging and dangerous cave systems in the UK. Eli Simpson, a founder of the British Speleological Association, first discovered the caves in 1941 after having become convinced of their existence in the area. On May 31, 1941, while searching for a fallen tobacco pipe, Eli Simpson and a team of friends were finally able to discover a usable entrance with which could be used to explore the caves. The Mossdale Caverns are an extremely challenging cave system notorious for their susceptibility to flooding. Many sections require prolonged wet crawls, while others involve traversing water that can reach neck height. Early explorations, such as those by Bill Leakey, were often conducted solo due to the physical demands and endurance required, which few others possessed at the time. Due to these extreme challenges, it was only in 1964 when two men, Mike Boone and Pete Livesey, managed to reach the very end of the cave. A round-trip journey of the Mossdale Caverns can typically take between 8 to 10 hours. Here is where our story begins. On June 24, 1967, 10 young cavers would enter Mossdale Caverns. This group, formed from 3 separate caving clubs, was attempting a to and from exploration of the Mossdale Caverns cave system. Concerningly, only 2 of them had prior experience in Mossdale Caverns: Dave Adamson, the 26-year-old leader and the oldest of the group, and his friend Geoff Borrow, 24, who was recently married. Both were affiliated with Leeds University. 3 members, John Ogden, Jim Cunningham, and John Shepherd, all 21, represented the Bolton-based Happy Wanderers Club. The Bradford Pothole Club was represented by Colin Vickers, 23, and Bill Frakes, 19, both accomplished cavers, as well as Michael Ryan, 17, a promising newcomer. Rounding out the group were Colette Lord, 19, accompanying the Bolton trio for a rare outing, and Morrig Forbes, 22, who was engaged to marry Adamson the following month. Although the weather that morning was fair, the forecast for the day remained uncertain, and sudden thunderstorms seemed likely. Despite this danger, the group still ventured into the cave. Privately, however, Cunningham and Shepherd decided the conditions were too risky for their comfort. Both were set to join Ogden and Frakes the following week in the British attempt to break the world depth record in France's Berger Chasm, and they didn't want to jeopardize that opportunity. However, Adamson reassured the group, insisting he knew how to avoid danger. Reluctant to back out and risk losing face, the pair seemed resigned to the trip, until the 2 women in the group offered an excuse. Neither woman was an experienced caver, and they preferred a simpler underground experience. Cunningham and Shepherd saw an opportunity and volunteered to accompany the women if Adamson could spare them. As the rest of the group entered the cave, Cunningham and Shepherd, along with the 2 women, Morrig Forbes and Colette Lord, stayed closer to the entrance, opting for a simpler and safer underground excursion. Meanwhile, Dave Adamson led the remaining 6 cavers, Geoff Borrow, John Ogden, Jim Cunningham, John Shepherd, Colin Vickers, and Michael Ryan deeper into the cave system. This decision would later prove to be critical. Soon after having explored what they were comfortable with, the group of 4 left the cave. As they exited the cave, however, they noticed something. It was raining. Although the weather had been clear in the morning, the forecast had warned of potential thunderstorms. By around 2 o'clock, heavy rain started falling over the area, quickly saturating the ground. Over the course of around 1 to 2 hours, it is estimated that 2 inches of rain fell. The volume of rain, combined with the region's karst limestone geology, caused rapid runoff into the caverns, leading to a flash flood that trapped the remaining group of 6 cavers inside. This rainfall was significantly above average for the area, and created catastrophic flooding conditions inside the cave. In just a few hours, the entrance to Mossdale Caverns had become a flooded whirlpool. Cunningham and Shepherd, both experienced cavers, immediately understood the gravity of the situation. They wasted no time and raced to find help, contacting nearby locals and emergency services. Word spread quickly, and soon, rescue teams and fellow cavers arrived, prepared to do whatever they could. Cavers have an unspoken rule. They rescue their own because no one else can. But for Cunningham and Shepherd, this time was different. The lives at stake belonged to their friends. The scene that greeted them was nightmarish. Mossdale Caverns had transformed into a churning lake, and the cave was entirely submerged. Around them, dozens of cavers and rescuers gathered in the relentless rain, anxiously awaiting a plan. The sheer scale of the flooding left everyone stunned. No one had encountered a situation like this before. Before long, help began to arrive. Fire engines, tractors, and JCBs rumbled up to the moor, their presence a small comfort in the chaos. Despite the dire circumstances, the rescue operation was about to begin, driven by the hope that somehow their 6 friends might still be alive. As the midsummer sun rose, the scene at Mossdale Caverns was one of frantic determination. Resembling a battlefield rather than a rescue site, hundreds of volunteers toiled relentlessly, many using just their bare hands to carve out a massive diversion ditch, 6 feet wide, 10 feet deep, and stretching nearly 100 yards. Nearby, they worked on constructing an equally monumental dam, towering 10 feet high, 15 feet thick, and 70 yards long. The dam, though hastily built and unstable, was later reinforced with 10,000 sandbags. Its rapid construction in just one morning was nothing short of a miracle, though the diggers couldn't shake the sinking feeling that their efforts might already be too late. And then the waiting began. Would the dam hold? Would the floodwaters recede? And if they did, what would they find in the depths of the cave? A tense silence hung over the crowd as they braced for answers, uncertain whether hope or despair lay ahead. By late Sunday morning, as 19 fire pumps worked tirelessly, the water levels in Mossdale Caverns finally began to recede. A sense of urgency gripped the exhausted rescue team. Led by the steadfast Bob Eyre, his sleep-deprived team prepared for a perilous descent into the still gurgling cave. Despite warnings that they were emotionally drained and physically strained, John Cunningham and John Shepherd insisted on joining Eyre's team, determined to do everything in their power to save their friends. Accompanying them was John Rustin and Frank Burns, fellow members of the Happy Wanderers Club. Frank, affectionately known as the Gentle Giant, was perhaps the most resolute of all. His connection to John Ogden, one of the trapped cavers, was deeply personal. They had been childhood best friends, exploring their first cave together at the age of 11. Now, standing at the threshold of the flooded caverns, Frank carried the weight of not only his own hope, but that of Ogden's father, who was waiting anxiously outside, desperate for the news of his only son. The rescuers' efforts in Mossdale Caverns reached a heartbreaking climax as they ventured deeper into the perilous cave. Far Marathon, though still dripping, was eerily silent, like a tomb. The tight crawl space, just 10 inches high and 2 feet wide, left no room for passing if survivors were found. Bob Eyre, an experienced leader of underground rescues, allowed Jim Waltham to lead a small team forward, but the overwhelming desperation drove others to push ahead as well. Waltham was the first to make the grim discovery. 2 bodies were jammed in the passage, and beyond them, 3 more. Crawling over the lifeless forms was a terrifying ordeal, and the oppressive stillness added to the nightmare. When Eyre reached the group, many were weeping, and some were retching from shock. Only Waltham managed to speak, his words crushing. "Go back, Jim. They're dead." Outside, the rescue operation faced its own battle. The dam, hastily built to divert water, trembled under the pressure of the rising rain. Twice it collapsed, forcing volunteers in the stream to form a desperate human barrier to hold back the flood. All night, the battle against nature raged on. Inside, the rescuers searched for John Ogden, the sixth missing caver. Hope lingered that the expert diver might have found an air pocket in a high cavern. Early Monday morning, Bob Leakey, the legendary discoverer of the Mossdale Caverns, led another team deep into the cave. Frank Barnes, ever hopeful and determined, joined the effort. They reached the bodies, but ventured beyond, searching for Ogden. The dam's instability, however, forced them to retreat. By Monday night, the search continued amid mounting public attention. News crews and curious onlookers swarmed the site, turning the tragedy into a media circus. On Tuesday night, rescue leader Brian Boardman led one final team into the cave. Crawling past the bodies, he spotted a glint of gold, a ring. Nearby, he saw a boot protruding from a narrow fissure. John Ogden had fought to reach the last inch of breathable air, but it wasn't enough. At dawn, the rescuers emerged with heavy hearts. Outside, Ogden's father, who had always opposed his son's caving pursuits, needed no words. A single glance at Frank Barnes's face told him everything. The battle was over. Rain fell steadily, and the dam remained fragile. Retrieving the bodies required crawling through the treacherous passages for hours, a task at this point deemed impossible. After consulting with the coroner, Stephen Brown, and the families, the decision was made to seal the cave permanently. It would remain a grave, untouched and respected. This decision, of course, was painful. For the caving community, leaving comrades behind went against every instinct. 4 days after the tragedy began, the exhausted rescuers departed, leaving 6 men buried beneath Curranstone Moor. The rescue report summed up the ordeal. Never has so much been done by so many people for such a small reward. In 1970, despite the cave being officially sealed, a group of friends of the victims managed to access Mossdale Caverns. They carefully relocated the remains of the 6 lost cavers to a high-level chamber. This new resting place, later named the Sanctuary, was chosen with the hope that it would remain safe from future flooding, offering a final refuge within the treacherous cave system. Over time, the tragedy became etched into caving history. Frank Barnes continued to visit Mossdale each year, mourning the friends who never returned. Others, too, carried the weight of those long days. On the 40th anniversary, a remembrance service was held, drawing many who had been part of the rescue. Mossdale Caverns stands as both a natural wonder and a somber reminder of the risks inherent to exploration. Following the 1967 tragedy, the cave was officially sealed, its passages declared off-limits in defense of the lives lost and the perilous conditions within. While some adventurers still dare to enter unofficially, the site remains a grave, forever tied to the memory of the 6 men who perished in its depths. Mossdale's haunting legacy underscores the thin line between human ambition and the unforgiving power of nature, serving as both a cautionary tale and a testament to the indomitable spirit of exploration. If you liked that video, please consider leaving a like and a thumbs up, and if you have any suggestions for future videos or ways that we can improve, please leave them in the comments below. With that, thank you for listening, and I hope to see you in the next video.